Hi, everybody. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm sorry it's been so long since my last installment, but as you know, we've had a war going on here, and especially for the last 2 weeks, there's been additional pressure because of the threats from our enemies to the north, enemies called Hezbollah in Lebanon, and of course the regime, a radical regime in Tehran to our east. And so, things have not been normal. Even tonight is the beginning of the Jewish fast of Tisha B'Av, which means the ninth of Av, the ninth day of the fifth month. And this is a remembrance of all kinds of disasters and loss and grief that has befallen the Jewish people over the centuries, actually over the millennia, going back to the report of the 10 spies, 10 of the 12 spies that came back from the land of Canaan with a bad report, going on to the destruction of the first and the second temples, expulsions of the Jewish people from various nations, France, Spain, England, in the Middle Ages, all took place on the 9th of Av. And even in 1941, the Nazi regime in Germany made the decision to go ahead with the final solution, which was the genocide of the Jewish people. That decision was officially taken on the 9th of Av. Even today, our enemies, knowing Jewish history and traditions of the Jewish people, have threatened to attack us on the 9th of Av. So tonight we'll be especially prayerful and especially watchful about what's going to unfold in this current conflict that Israel is involved in. But I spoke last time about good disruption coming to the church. And I think we should all know that there's only one person who has the authority, who has the right to disrupt the church. And that person, of course, is Yeshua, Jesus, the head of the church. He alone has the right to disrupt the church because it is he who said, I will build my church and the gates of hell will not prevail against it. And so we believe that Yeshua, Jesus, is in fact changing the shape of the church, that this disruption that I was speaking about in my last installment is in fact already underway, and that the church is in the process, and it's a big process of changing some of its basic theologies, and with it the structure, even the shape of our daily church life is being transformed. And there are many aspects of this, many facets to this, but I'd like to focus in this installment just on one, which is the basic theology of Christianity, which since more than 1,000 years ago, virtually 1,500 years ago, has been a theology of replacement. And that is that the Western Church developed the idea that the church, that is the body of believers, had taken the place of Israel, which is the nation of the Jewish people, featured strongly, of course, in the Bible, but that the church, the body of all believers, had replaced Israel in God's redemptive plan. And that, of course, Jewish people had a covenant with God. They were created as a people to be a nation before God. And these promises in the Bible are said to be everlasting and forever. But the church understood, and this was going back to 200 or 300 years after the times of Jesus and extending all the way up until modern times, the church had come to the understanding, well, the Jews had been so bad. They'd been stubborn and stiff-necked. They'd argued with God. They turned to idolatry, and then in the end, they had rejected God's graceful offer of His Son as a sacrifice and atonement. Their Son, and because of that rejection, God had then rejected Israel. And their covenant, the covenants that they had with God, were considered to be in default and had actually been taken over then by the body of all believers. Now, Israel, we need to understand, is is foundational in the scriptures. The name Israel is mentioned more than 2,300 times in the Bible, more than any other name except for the name of God himself. We know just every Christian should know that every book of the Bible is written by a Jew, with the lone possible exception of Luke and Acts. We just don't know if Luke was Jewish or not. So there's a question mark there. But if Luke, the gospel writer and the writer of Acts, was Jewish, then that would be 100% of the Bible was written by Jews. And this is not an accident, it's by design. God chose the Jewish people, the people of Israel, for a special redemptive purpose. And there's so much in the Bible to go back to. Perhaps in a future installment, I'll do that. But Israel is foundational to the scriptures. The Jewish people wrote the scriptures, and they give us the heroes of the Bible: Abraham, Moses, David, Jeremiah, Isaiah, the judges, the kings, and of course Jesus and all of the original apostles. So they gave us so much that to say that the church has now replaced them as a people, and that God no longer has any significance for the Jewish people, was a big replacement. And this became official Catholic doctrine more than 1,000 years ago. It was not corrected by the reformers of the Protestant movement. And so basically it's either taught or is the background noise of all Christians today. Now, one of the problems with this, and there are many problems, but we have to deal with them one by one. One of the problems with this is that when you replace Israel with the church, then of course the church takes on is the priority, and the Jews then become a cast off people, a people who failed in their covenant and who have fallen from grace. And this begins to explain the awful story of Christian anti-Semitism over the centuries, where Jewish people were not just marginalized and held in contempt by Christians in the church in Europe for over a millennia, but there were seasons when the church actively persecuted them. And but now in modern days, because Israel is back as a modern nation against all odds in a historically unprecedented event of a nation being destroyed and scattered, and the people forced to wander from continent to continent, from nation to nation for nearly 2,000 years, and then to come back and start their nation again after nearly 2 millennia of being not a nation, is historically unprecedented. But it is in fact what is prophesied in the scriptures again and again. So you have this event that took place basically in our time, and now the emergence of a remnant of Israeli Jews who are worshiping Yeshua as Messiah and King, and welcoming him back to his own land to be worshiped among his own Jewish people, and to be spoken about and sung about in his own native language of Hebrew for the first time in 2,000 years. These are simply facts of our modern times. But these facts point to a change and a restoration of the church to its Hebraic foundations, and a turning away from the replacement theology of the past. It's as if God is saying, I never forgot the Jewish people. I set them aside, but I never forgot them. I scattered them, but my promise to them that they would be a nation and have a land was an everlasting promise, and I'm going on record as keeping my promises, and I've brought them back in your times. Not only that, I've brought them back in order to give to them salvation in the name of their own Jewish Messiah, Yeshua HaMashiach, Jesus the Christ. And these are the events that are unfolding in our time. And so it is bringing a great disruption for the church, because you can imagine believing one thing about the Jewish people for 1,500 years, and now suddenly in 1 century to have to change all that. It's really changing a lot, and it will change the structure of the church. It will change our destiny and identity, how we understand ourselves as Christians and our role in this world. And it will change the way we do church, and I believe bring us to the greatest era of fruitfulness in the church, a great, great end time harvest of the nations and the fulfillment of the command that God gave us, the Lord gave us in the Great Commission. When he said, go into all the world and make disciples of all nations. And also his prediction in Matthew chapter 24, when he said, this gospel of the kingdom will be preached to every nation throughout the world, and then the end will come. Matthew 24, verse 14. So these are times of great change. It's going to mean disruption for the church. And in the future installments, I will begin to address this one topic after another, Lord willing. So thank you for your prayers. Thank you for your encouragement, and I look forward to seeing you next time.